The wind howled across the prairie, carrying with it the scent of distant rain and wild grass. On a quiet ranch far from town, a woman named Sarah lived alone. She was a schoolteacher, known for her strength, wisdom, and kindness, but also for a sorrow she never spoke of. Years ago, life had shaken her with a tragedy she carried in silence. She had lost her baby boy shortly after birth. No grave, no goodbye, just a hollow ache that had never healed. One dusky evening, as the sky painted itself in strokes of orange and purple, a knock came at her door. Standing there was a raggedy cowboy, dusty hat in hand, boots worn down, and eyes like storm clouds, heavy with something unspoken. "I'm not looking for trouble," he said softly, "just need a place to rest for the night." Sarah hesitated. Everything about him warned caution, but something deeper, a whisper in her soul, told her to listen. She opened the door and led him in. Over dinner they spoke little, but his eyes kept wandering across her old bookshelf, the family photos, the quilt she'd sewn with the name Michael stitched into a corner. That name stirred something in him. Finally, he looked at her and said, "Did you lose someone?" She froze. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Yes," she whispered, "my son, many years ago." He swallowed hard. "I was raised in an orphanage. All I ever had was this." He reached into his coat and pulled out a faded baby blanket, with the name Sarah embroidered in one corner. Time stood still, her breath caught, her knees weakened. She reached for the blanket, trembling. It was hers, he was hers. The cowboy who had arrived dusty and ragged, asking only for shelter, was the son she thought she had lost forever. She held him, weeping, not just out of sorrow, but out of joy, forgiveness, and awe. Moral, in life, we are often visited by people who seem to need us, but sometimes we are the ones in need of faith, of love, and of a second chance. Never underestimate the power of kindness, for it may lead you right back to what your heart has been searching for all along. Never judge by appearances. This simple phrase carries profound wisdom, often overlooked in a world that teaches us to make quick decisions based on what we see. We live in a society where the outer shell is often mistaken for the whole story. A person's clothes, accent, cleanliness, or lack of social polish can lead us to form instant conclusions about their worth, intentions, or background. But when we judge based on appearances alone, we close the door to deeper truths, to rich stories, to meaningful human connections that are often hidden beneath the surface. Imagine a man walking down the street in torn clothes, his face weathered by the sun, his boots coated in dust. Many might avoid him, assuming he is dangerous, lazy, or untrustworthy. But what if this man were once a decorated soldier, a scholar, or someone's lost family? What if the clothes he wore were the result of sacrifice, hardship, or courage? What if his journey had more depth than any book could hold? In the story of the raggedy cowboy who appeared at Sarah's door, the first impression might have been one of suspicion or fear. His appearance suggested poverty, perhaps even danger. And yet, behind that rough exterior was a heart connected to hers, a story tied to her own pain and past. Had she closed the door based on how he looked, she would have missed the miracle that stood before her, the return of her lost son. This moment teaches us that our initial perceptions can be wrong, and dangerously so. It's a powerful reminder that every person, no matter how worn or broken they seem, carries a history, a soul, and a truth we may never understand at first glance. This principle is not just spiritual or emotional, it has educational importance too. In classrooms, for instance, students may judge one another based on shoes, accents, or family backgrounds. Teachers might even subconsciously have lower expectations for a child who appears disinterested or comes to school in dirty clothes. But education, at its heart, is about seeing potential in every child, regardless of their external condition. Many great thinkers, inventors, and leaders came from humble or even difficult beginnings. Albert Einstein was considered a slow learner. Oprah Winfrey wore potato sacks as dresses due to poverty. Had they been judged only by appearance or early behavior, the world would have lost so much light. To judge fairly, we must learn to look deeper. That means listening before deciding, asking before assuming, and welcoming before rejecting. We need to build the habit of pausing our instincts and engaging our curiosity instead. What happened to this person? What might they be carrying that I can't see? What might I learn from them if I take the time? Books teach us stories of transformation and hidden strength all the time, yet when it comes to real people, we forget. We must train our minds and hearts to work together, to seek truth beyond appearance, to find beauty where others see brokenness, and to welcome strangers not with fear but with cautious compassion. Ultimately, every human being is more than what they wear, own, or look like. Our value lies in our spirit, our journey, our heart. When we judge only by appearances, we are not just limiting others, we are limiting ourselves. We lose the chance to grow, to learn, and to witness life's hidden miracles. The raggedy cowboy may come to us in many forms: a poor student, a quiet neighbor, a stranger on the road. Let's not shut the door too quickly. Let's open it with wisdom and grace, and we may be surprised at the blessings that walk in. The power of compassion is one of the most transformative forces in the world. It has the ability to cross barriers, heal old wounds, and even bring the lost back home. Compassion is not just about feeling sorry for someone. It is about stepping into their pain, offering warmth when it's not expected, and giving help even when it's not deserved. In many ways, compassion is an act of courage because it asks us to be vulnerable, to open ourselves to another's struggles, and to offer support without knowing what we'll receive in return. In the story of the raggedy cowboy, compassion is what opened the door, literally and emotionally. Sarah didn't know who he was, and she had every reason to turn him away. He was dusty, unfamiliar, and possibly dangerous. Yet something within her stirred, a quiet voice that said, "He needs help." That moment was not just about offering food or shelter. It was about honoring his humanity. She didn't see just a stranger. She saw a person, and in doing so, she gave both of them a chance at healing. This act of compassion changed everything. Her decision to open the door didn't just give him a place to sleep. It restored a connection that had been lost for years. Imagine if she had followed fear instead. Imagine if she had said, "No, I don't know you, go away." That single choice would have closed the path to reunion, forgiveness, and peace. Instead, her compassion made way for a miracle. Compassion has the power to do this in everyday life as well. In schools, for instance, students who act out are often treated with discipline and distance. But behind that behavior might be a deeper story: hunger, loneliness, or fear. When teachers and classmates respond with compassion instead of judgment, those students begin to feel seen and valued. This can change their entire future. A kind word, a small gesture, or even a moment of listening can be the key that opens a locked heart. The same applies to our communities. Homeless people, immigrants, the elderly, and those who are sick often live unseen lives. Their pain is silent, their presence ignored. Yet when someone takes a moment to smile, to ask a name, or to help carry a bag, the world begins to change in small but powerful ways. Compassion doesn't require money or power, it requires heart. And every person, no matter their age or background, can practice it. In the classroom, compassion also teaches leadership. A child who stands up for a bullied friend is not just being kind. They are becoming a leader. A student who helps a classmate with homework is not just giving answers. They are building bridges. Compassion teaches us that strength doesn't always look loud or proud. Sometimes it is quiet, gentle, and strong in ways the world can't measure. And it is important to note that compassion isn't only for others. It's also for ourselves. When we make mistakes or feel broken, we must learn to treat ourselves with the same kindness we offer to others. Self-compassion is how we heal, grow, and keep going. It helps us understand that being human means sometimes failing, and that's okay. The world often encourages competition over kindness, but true greatness lies in compassion. It is the thread that ties humanity together. It is what allows strangers to become family, and what allows hearts to find their way back home, just like the raggedy cowboy and Sarah. When we live with compassion, we don't just change the lives of others, we change our own. We make room for love, hope, and unexpected miracles. We make the world softer, stronger, and more human. Hidden lessons in unexpected places remind us that life is often the greatest teacher, and its most powerful teachings don't always come from books, schools, or formal settings. They can be found in silence, in strangers, in accidents, or even in pain. We often plan our lives in neat lines, study this, work there, grow in this way, but the truth is, some of our most important lessons are found where we least expect them. That is why we must keep our eyes and hearts open, especially in unfamiliar situations and among unfamiliar people. In the story of the Raggedy Cowboy, Sarah had no reason to think that a dusty stranger at her door would carry any lesson for her. In fact, at first glance, he seemed like someone who needed help, not someone who had anything to offer. But as the night unfolded, it became clear that his presence was more than just chance. He carried a truth that changed her life. This teaches us that wisdom and healing can come from surprising places. A person who looks like a wanderer can hold the answer to your long, lost question. A moment that seems like trouble can actually be a turning point. In education, we often focus on learning from textbooks and teachers. While these are important, we sometimes forget that life itself teaches through experiences. A student who struggles in math may suddenly understand a concept not through a worksheet, but through a game or a real life example. A child who is shy may find courage not in a speech class but in helping a friend. These moments are unexpected, but they are just as valuable, if not more. We must also learn that sometimes failure teaches more than success. When we make mistakes, we may feel discouraged or embarrassed, but mistakes often open the door to lessons we wouldn't have learned otherwise. A broken friendship might teach us how to communicate better. A poor grade may teach us about time management or the importance of asking for help. These are lessons life offers freely, but only if we are willing to learn from them. Hidden lessons can also come from people we usually ignore. A janitor might teach a child about hard work and humility. A sibling might show the meaning of patience. Even a person with fewer words can teach the importance of listening. When we assume someone has nothing to teach us because of their job, background, or appearance, we miss valuable wisdom. Every person has lived a story that we haven't. When we're open to learning from others, no matter who they are, we grow in understanding and empathy. Sometimes, even pain becomes a teacher. A heartbreak can teach resilience. A loss can teach gratitude. These are not lessons we want, but they are lessons that help us become wiser and stronger. Just like Sarah, who carried pain from her past, many of us carry silent lessons that shape how we see the world. And when a moment comes, like a knock at the door, that stirs those memories, we are reminded that life is always teaching, even when we aren't looking. To become lifelong learners, we must stop expecting all lessons to look the same. They don't always come with a classroom, a blackboard, or a book. They may arrive in a stranger's voice, in a difficult choice, or in a moment of stillness. When we understand this, we begin to see learning as something larger than school. It becomes part of who we are. So, let us be like Sarah, who in her quiet heart was open enough to listen, to welcome, and to discover a hidden truth. Let us not rush past the ordinary moments or push away people who seem different. For in these quiet corners of life, the most powerful lessons often wait, ready to shape us in ways we never imagined. Every person has a story. This truth is one of the most important understandings we can carry with us through life. No one is just what they seem on the outside. Behind every face is a journey, filled with dreams, challenges, memories, and feelings that we may never see at first glance. A quiet person may be carrying deep sorrow. A loud person may be hiding fear. Someone who seems rude may be dealing with pain that has no words. When we begin to see others not just as people, but as stories in motion, we treat them with more patience, respect, and kindness. In the story of the Raggedy Cowboy, it would have been easy for Sarah to look at him and assume he had nothing to offer. He looked worn, tired, even a little lost, but hidden beneath his weathered face and dusty clothes was a story that connected deeply with hers. He had lived years not knowing where he came from, and she had lived years grieving the child she thought was lost forever. Two broken stories found their missing piece in each other. This is the power of realizing that everyone has a story, because sometimes those stories intertwine in ways that change lives. In classrooms, this truth is just as important. A student who doesn't speak much may be learning a new language. A child who forgets homework may be caring for younger siblings while their parents work late. Teachers who recognize that students are more than their grades or behavior often become the ones who make the biggest difference. By listening, by asking gently, and by caring deeply, they begin to understand the full story, and that story often explains more than any report card ever could. Even in daily life, this idea helps us grow in empathy. When someone is angry, our first reaction might be to become angry in return. But if we pause and think, what might they be going through? We begin to respond differently. Maybe they had a hard day. Maybe they received bad news. Maybe they've never been taught how to handle emotions. Understanding that everyone has a story helps us become more compassionate and thoughtful, even in tough moments. Sometimes we are quick to label people. He's lazy, she's strange, they're no good. But these labels are unfair and incomplete. People are not just one thing. A person who seems lazy may be depressed. A person who seems strange may have unique thoughts and talents that no one has taken the time to understand. A person who makes mistakes may be trying harder than we realize. When we move past labels and begin to listen to each other's stories, we start building a world that is more accepting and kind. Every story is shaped by many things: family, culture, pain, love, loss, and hope. And while we can never know someone's full story, we can choose to respect that they have one. This changes the way we speak, listen, and care. It reminds us that every human being deserves dignity. It's also important to remember that our own stories matter. Even when we feel small, unseen, or misunderstood, our story is still valuable. And just like the cowboy who carried only a blanket with a name on it, sometimes all we need is one person to listen and believe in our story. That act of being seen and heard can bring healing, direction, and strength. The truth that every person has a story invites us to slow down and see people more clearly. It helps us become better friends, teachers, neighbors, and leaders. It encourages us to be patient when it's hard, to be kind when it's not returned, and to be open when it feels easier to turn away. In the end, stories are what connect us, shape us, and help us grow. When we honor each person's story, we help make the world a gentler and more understanding place. Love and family can be rekindled, even after years of silence, distance, or pain. Human connections, especially those formed by blood or deep emotional bonds, are never truly broken. They may become hidden, strained, or forgotten, but the spark of love can still be reignited. This belief gives us hope, especially when relationships seem beyond repair. Life is full of moments that can restore what we thought was lost, and sometimes all it takes is a small act of openness, forgiveness, or courage to light that flame again. In the story of the Raggedy Cowboy and Sarah, this truth becomes real and powerful. For years, Sarah believed her son was gone forever. She had buried her grief and built a life around that loss, and yet, one ordinary evening, everything changed. A stranger at her door, someone she could have ignored, turned out to be the very piece of her heart that she had mourned for so long. That reunion wasn't just emotional, it was a deep reminder that love has no expiry date. It can wait quietly through the years, through pain and confusion, until the moment is right for it to bloom again. Families often experience hardship. Sometimes misunderstandings grow into silence. Sometimes people move far away, not just physically but emotionally. Words are left unsaid, feelings are buried, and the warmth once shared becomes a memory. But that does not mean the love is gone. Sometimes what is needed is a moment of truth. A letter, a visit, a word of kindness to bring it back to life. When people take the risk to reach out again, They are choosing healing over pride, connection over distance. In our own lives, we may see family members who haven't spoken in years, parents and children who feel like strangers, or friendships that ended in hurt. But within each of these relationships is the possibility of return. This doesn't mean that everything will be exactly as it was. People change, time changes us, but the core of love remains, waiting for the chance to reconnect and rebuild. This message is important for children, too. Sometimes siblings argue or feel distant. Sometimes parents seem too busy or strict. But love doesn't vanish just because times are hard. A hug, a kind word, or even just time spent together can begin to heal what feels broken. Children and adults alike must learn that rebuilding relationships takes effort, patience, and honesty, but it is possible. In schools and communities, teachers and mentors can help by reminding students about forgiveness and second chances. When children see adults modeling reconciliation, making up after a fight, saying sorry, or showing kindness even after conflict, they learn that love isn't perfect, but it's powerful. It teaches them that relationships are worth fighting for. There's also an important lesson in how the reunion between Sarah and her son was unexpected. Neither of them planned it. Neither of them could have guessed when or how it would happen. This reminds us that we must stay open. We don't know what life will bring. The person you miss may return when you least expect it. The moment to forgive may come quietly, disguised as something ordinary. That's why keeping a soft heart matters. You never know when love will come knocking, sometimes literally at your door. Ultimately, to rekindle love and family means believing in hope. It means accepting that people can change, that mistakes can be mended, and that time can soften even the hardest pain. It does not mean ignoring the past, but learning from it and choosing love anyway. When we choose to believe in reconnection, we are choosing a better, braver, and more loving world. Whether in our homes, schools, or hearts, there is always room for love to return, and to grow stronger than before. The past does not have to define the future. This is a powerful truth that brings hope to anyone who has ever made a mistake, faced hardship, or lived through loss. While the past shapes us and teaches us important lessons, it does not have to trap us. People can grow, heal, and change. Even when life has taken a difficult turn, there is always the possibility of a new beginning. Understanding this can help us become more resilient, more forgiving, and more open to the future. In the story of the Raggedy Cowboy, the man had lived a life full of unknowns. He didn't know where he came from, and he carried the weight of an identity he didn't understand. He could have let that confusion define him forever. He could have given up or believed that he was just a wandering soul without purpose. But he kept moving forward, and eventually he found the place where he belonged. Sarah, too, could have let her grief keep her bitter and closed off. She could have said no when he asked for help, protecting herself from more pain. But she chose to open the door, both to him and to the possibility of a future that was better than her past. This idea matters deeply in education and personal development. Many students carry burdens from their past, academic struggles, family problems, or social difficulties. They may think they are not good enough, smart enough, or strong enough because of things that happened before. But every new day is a chance to rewrite that story. A student who failed a test last week can study and do better next time. A child who was once shy can find their voice. Change is always possible when we believe that the past is a chapter, not the whole book. Even adults need this reminder. People make mistakes. They say things they regret. They make poor choices. But those moments do not define who they are forever. What truly matters is what they choose to do next. Do they learn? Do they grow? Do they make amends? Redemption is possible for anyone who is willing to change. This belief helps create a world where people are not forever punished for their past, but are encouraged to grow beyond it. This idea also encourages forgiveness. When we believe that the past does not define the future, we begin to give others the grace to change. We don't hold them in the box of what they once did or who they once were. We look for signs of growth. We support their efforts to become better. This helps build stronger families, friendships, and communities. When people feel they can grow without being judged forever by their past, They feel safer, stronger, and more connected. We must also apply this belief to ourselves. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is ourselves. We hold on to guilt or shame and let it stop us from dreaming, loving, or trying again. But when we accept that our past is just one part of our journey, we give ourselves permission to move forward. We can set new goals, build new habits, and choose kindness over self-criticism. This is how we build a hopeful life, by letting go of what once was and focusing on what can be. The story of Sarah and the cowboy ends in reunion and peace, not because their past was easy, but because they allowed the future to be different. They made new choices, brave choices, that opened the door to healing. And that is a lesson for all of us. The past matters, but it does not have to hold us captive. With hope, courage, and the willingness to change, we can create a future that is brighter, stronger, and filled with the love and purpose we deserve.